Welcome, everybody. I'm Michael J. I'm the chair of Icicle, and with me here today is also my vice chair, and that's Jody Liss. And of course, we have presenter and also the co-chair of the Localization and Globalization Special Interest Group. And uh, that Adisola is here as well. So why don't we just go ahead and jump in? So welcome everybody. I did quick introductions here, and of course we'll learn a little bit more about Carolina as we get into her use case and jump ahead. Um, we'll do a quick overview about learning engineering and what Icicle is. We'll talk about the global context case that Carolina is going to share. We'll have some time for Q&A. We'll see how that goes, and then we'll talk a little bit about the structure of Icicles, SIGs, and MIGs and how you can get involved, and share any learning engineering resources and tools. So this is really just some of you are old timers here who have been involved for a while and appreciate you being here, and some people are here first time. So this is a chance for you to get involved and find places where Icicle can be helpful to you in your work and your interests. So let's move on. I'm going to pass this over to Jody.
Thank you so much, Michael. A warm welcome again to everybody. We're so excited that you're here. As Michael said, we're going to start with kind of a brief overview of learning engineering and what it is and how it works and a little bit more about icicles. So just to get everybody kind of on the same page in terms of talking about learning engineering, many of you have seen this before. I recognize that. Some of it may be new, some of it may know other definitions of learning engineering. And this is the definition that Icicle supports, and how we end up doing our interventions is using this type of process. And you can read more about it in the Learning Engineering Toolkit, and we'll give you a link to that as well. I also wanted to reiterate, again, as many of you know, that it's not a new term like a prompt engineer in today's lingo. It came about with Herb Simon from Carnegie Mellon University in 1967, and he talked about having a team to be able to design learning environments. So it is something that people have been talking about for quite a while. I first wanted to focus on the engineering part because that's the part where people a little bit stumble upon, and wanted to reinforce that learning engineering is engineering. It's a systems approach. It's looking at complex problems and how you're able to solve those types of problems and what those solutions can be. It's using a multidisciplinary approach where you need a team of people to be able to solve that problems. So it really is learning engineering, looking at a holistic way of complex problems that you're trying to solve at scale. And then breaking it down a little bit further, we have the learning sciences. How do we know that people can learn, and what are those approaches and methodologies? It was interesting when I was glancing through the paper that Herb Simon wrote, 60 years ago, and he talked about learning. And one of the things that he said about learning was that what is learned must be defined in terms of what the student should be able to do. And that's the type of thing that we continue to talk about and continue to define. The next part is the human-centered approach. That's an approach to solving problems. Again, it's making sure that the person, the learner, the human is at the center of it all, which is our approach to learning engineering, and making sure that it kind of centers upon that. And you collaborate with that person, and then you do lots of testing and making sure that it's what's working. And then the last part that I just want to reinforce is the data-informed decision making. Throughout the entire process, we will be talking about data, designing with the data, using that data to do testing and iteration to continue to, as the last part of this says, to support learners and their development. And then we just wanted to, again, talk a little bit about Icicle. It's part of the IEEE. There's many E's in the IEEE. The last one is the most important one, about engineering. And the little star on the bottom is where we fall into the IEEE. We're part of the Standards Association and Learning Technology Standards Committee. So we really try to reinforce the use of learning standards, and we talk about that a lot in the learning engineering process. The group is devoted to the development as a profession, the practice and the process. And, it is like we said, and people are familiar with, it is a team of people and a team of people from different types of disciplines. And we've listed many of those types of people that are here, that are involved with it. And we're promoting, again, the practice and process of learning engineering, and through this invitation to engineering webinar series, through conferences, and also through our special interest groups and our market interest groups, to be able to learn more about learning engineering and promote and to advocate for it and to use it in practice. So as Michael said at the beginning, the working group that is kind of hosting this is the Globalization Group. And I want to turn it over to the co-chair for this group, Adesola, to be able to give you an overview a little bit about the group.
Thank you, Jody, and welcome again, everyone. The Globalization Interest Group is a group of individuals who are keen on adaptive learning engineering within context. Again, learning is situational, and there are often factors in the learning environment that impact the outcome of learning, the inputs, the entire learning engineering process. So our purpose really is to take the learning engineering approach and empower individuals to adapt that within their cultural educational environment. And we have members across the globe, including from Ethiopia, Kenya, Latin America, Pakistan, to name a few environments that we have people joining us from. And I'm curious to see where people are joining us from today. So please feel free to put your location in the chat. We want to engage with you, and also consider this an invitation to join us. We meet once a month on the first Friday of every month at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. We can be flexible with time, so eventually we can also determine if that remains a good time for the majority of the group. And a lot of our activities are currently centered around collaborating and co-designing, working on projects, sharing initiatives across contexts, and just discussing global education initiatives as well. So welcome. And if you are interested in joining us, also feel free to contact us. We'll have some contact information towards the end. And I will pass it back to Jody.
Thank you so much, Adesola. We talked about the what, we talked about the why, we've talked about the who, and this is more about the how part of it. Again, this is building upon the definition, is about the how part and the process that we use to develop and apply learning engineering. We'd start with the challenge. What is the opportunity? What is the problem that you're trying to be able to solve? And we look at that in the terms of the context, what the environment is, what are the learners facing, both the internal and external factors that are a part of that context. The learners, obviously, these are the people that we want to be able to support and to develop their learning. And as we mentioned before, the team, the multidisciplinary side of it, and who's will need to be part of that solution. But after we come up with and define what that challenge is, we start the creation side of it. We're designing and we're developing what the solution will be. We start with many factors, including designing with the data in mind, and making sure that we know what we're trying to look at in order to see how the process is going, so that as we implement it, we will see what is working and what is not working, and collect that data, and then be able to investigate it, to be able to analyze and see what's working, and how we are able to iterate and improve. And this is just a summary of the few things that we've been talking about. Again, that learning engineering is contextualized. It's an iterative process, and using data, and it's the outcomes focused side of things. The image that is here looks at, again, on the data side of things. And I know that this is something you're going to hear several times from us, but we really feel that this is really important, that we're getting the information that we need to really improve those learner experiences and those learner environments. And so next up, we're going to have the application of everything that we've just given you an overview of from Carolina Ali from Project Alianza. And she's going to give us this amazing case study about learning engineering in the global context. And I am going to stop sharing so that Carolina can share and take it from here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jody, and everyone to be here. I'm very excited to share the experience that we have had building AnGo, and I'll talk briefly about that. I'm part of Project Alianza, a nonprofit organization in Central America. It's based in the US, but the population we serve is especially located in Guatemala. So thank you very much for being here. So yeah, as I was saying, Project Alianza, it's an NGO that started 10 years ago building schools in rural Nicaragua. Then we realized about the importance of literacy and the lack of literacy skills in this context, and we started applying a version of teaching at the right level methodology adapted to this context and doing a lot of teacher training. Then after the pandemic came in, we started to deliver radio programs in Nicaragua and providing also scholarships. The scholarship program remains in Guatemala now, and we are now focusing in technology to deliver this literacy support, and that's why we pivot and design AnGo, and this is where the learning engineering framework came into our work and became really, really important. So as Jody mentioned, in the learning engineering process, you start with a challenge, right? So as I said, the big challenge that Project Alianza is trying to solve is the learning poverty in which children in Central America specifically face. So there are more than 7 million children in the region that lack basic literacy skills. It's very rare to have books at home. And in some schools, there are some resources, but they are limited, especially in remote areas. It's very hard for teachers to get trained, very hard for the ministries of education to provide training, also in remote areas. And as you know, literacy is the getaway to opportunity is not only learning to read and write, but it's also the opportunity to develop critical thinking, agency, and then eventually access employability and even health services and so on. So literacy is crucial for these kids. I mean, from everyone, but especially for those kids to access opportunities. So that is why we designed AnGo to bridge the literacy gap in the region. We are very proud that this year we're part of the MIT Global Learning cohort. We got recognized for that in MIT Solve. So we are really excited to be part of this community. And that has helped us to have more visibility of the work that we are doing. So going back to the learning engineering process, who are our learners, right? We start with the learners at the center. So as I said, children live in rural areas. They mainly go to multi-grade classrooms. I don't know if you have heard about this or in your countries, you have faced this model in which in rural areas and semi-rural areas there are schools with 1 or 2 classrooms only in which there are kids from different grades in one classroom and there is only 1 or 2 teachers for the whole school. So this is the reality that we face. And also there's limited connectivity. In Guatemala specifically where we are focusing our work, from around 70%, 80% kids don't reach the minimum comprehension level of reading comprehension at the end of primary school. So this is just a reminder of the context that I shared, and especially thinking about the technology constraints that we face when we design AnGo. Especially devices that are shared. So we see that there is a technology adoption. Most families have an Android phone, and they work with packages of internet that they buy, like data. Connectivity is intermittent, so not a lot of people don't have Wi-Fi at home, but they have this data, or they go to places to have access to internet sometimes a month. And it's really rare to generate usable data. Like, there are a lot of interventions, but they are all spread out, and it's very hard to measure what is working, what is not working, and how it can be improved. Why we design AnGo? 2 is because evidence from low and middle income countries show that foundational literacy gaps persist when the instruction is misaligned with the learner's level. So as I say, imagine these classrooms where you have kids from different grades in the same classroom. Usually it's one classroom from first grade to third grade, but you might be having literacy gaps that go even from preschool, right? Or you can have kids that are in sixth grade, but their literacy levels are from second grade. So it's very important to provide skill and indicator-based level activities for support this structured practice in literacy. And usually teachers lack the resources to do so. As well, research shows that this practice has to be oriented, as I say, to core reading components such as phonics, vocabulary, fluency, and reading comprehension. So we take all of that into account to design AnGo, and we created AnGo to be accessible. So it's built for low-cost Android phones with limited connectivity. It means that it can work offline. You download some content in your phone when you download the app, and then as soon as people have internet access again, they can download more content and continue their practice. It's adaptive and personalized because they start with a literacy placement test, and then they get allocated in a reading level based on different indicators, and provide practice and scaffolding that is oriented to those indicators and learning level that the learner has to practice the most. And it's culturally relevant because it's co-designed by local educators. And we design level-based learning journeys that are anchored in inspirational stories that are aligned with topics and themes that are a priority from the Ministry of Education, but also that are needed in these communities, such as health, financial literacy, gender equality, cultural identity, environmental awareness, among many other topics. So a bit of overview of the different progressive levels that we have. We start with letter recognition and phonics. Then we have activities related to syllables and word reading. Then we move into sentence and writing, sentence formation and writing. And then we have activities that are more oriented to basic reading comprehension and advanced reading comprehension. Nevertheless, all the learning journeys have the same structure. We start with a theme story that is the anchor of the learning journey. And then after the story, there is a prompt of like 2 or 3 reading comprehension questions aligned to those, to that story. And that could be also a model for teachers or parents to model these reading comprehension skills and ask the right questions after reading the story. Then there are 2 blocks of activities of literacy practice that are these level-based activities that I mentioned before that are aligned to these levels and indicators. And then there's always a fun fact, provide this factual information that is related to the theme of the story, and a community challenge that it's an invitation, an open invitation to do something in person with the community that is related to the story. So an example is, if a story was about kids that were protecting their local river, then the community challenge could be to use literacy in a more actionable way, like creating a campaign or engaging others in communicating about the importance of protecting a particular environment in these contexts. So that's just an example of a community challenge. So it's an invitation, an open invitation to do something about it. We have evolved a lot since we started. This is how the app first looked like in a very basic way. We tested it with kids. We did like a co-design session with children in the early beginnings in which they rated the functions, and we also share it with teachers and parents, and we learned about that process. And this is how the app looks like right now. So this is, for example, the library of stories of one level. So these are the stories that are downloaded. They can select one of these stories. They can select, they have free choice of selecting the learning journeys that they want from the selection that is shown to them. And then they always rate the story in the end. So we also get information if they like it or not. This is literacy activities blog. This is the did you know section. There's always an invitation if they made a mistake to try it again. And if they choose yes, then it comes scaffolding piece of information there to help them solve the activity using another strategy or reminding them about the concepts of literacy that they are working on. It's co-designed with teachers, so these are members of our team. Some of them are in rural Guatemala, some of them were in Nicaragua when we first started. And yeah, we're very proud that the teachers that are part of our team are the co-designers of all the content that we do. It is assisted by AI in the sense that they use AI to create images, to create some of the audios for the stories or for the activities, and get ideas for the fun facts and so on. But they always are in the driving seat, making the choice of what goes into the platform or not. And we also have a quality control specialist that makes sure that everything is following our quality criteria. As we talk about learning engineering, it's an interdisciplinary process. So even though we don't have all of these roles all of these people in our team, we play all of these roles. So what I want to say is we are mindful about the different elements of the learning engineering process. And we have a person that is myself that is doing all the learning design and the learning experience design. We have the teachers and the quality control person that is doing all the content design, making sure that everything, as I said, is following our criteria. We have, of course, a very small team of developers that are doing an amazing job having all of these ideas convert into reality with the technology. And they also play the role of data scientists. We wish we could have a person focused in data and move further with that, but that's the reality that we hold. And so we are mindful about the data, and I'm going to show the work that this amazing team of developers have done as well. We have the educators, we have, and I think it's here on the call, Jaque, our amazing outreach director that is doing the work in the ground in Guatemala, forming and training these implementation champions for our partners NGOs to implement the app and scale. So yeah, talking about the data, we have a data dashboard to track all the activity of our app. This is something that we have released in our latest iteration, and we are still improving it. So it shows, for example, the number of devices that we have and number of users. As I said, our expectation is that people share devices, and you can see that this is a reality because we have less devices than users. Mostly all of our users are in Guatemala because it's where our outreach efforts have been allocated. But we have also seen some organic downloads and people of users that are coming from other Central American and Latin American countries. When it says none, it's other actually here. But yes, so I'm going to provide more like of a snapshot here. I already mentioned the countries that we are. The average time spent overall in the app, it's 17 minutes per user. Most of our users are learners actually are age 6 and 10. 60% of them are female. That is a data point that we are really proud about because it shows that we're bringing education to girls, which is really, really important in this region. And then I'll talk about the levels that learners are placed in. Most of them are in level 1, which talks about the importance of having this level-based approach and level-based activity and measuring these literacy skills. And then we have our engagement data of how many learning journeys they have completed. So this is a little bit alarming to us because 50% of them have not yet completed a learning journey, which can also mean that the data has not synced back to us because it could mean that they are working offline, and then when they get more like data or Wi-Fi, then we can get that information. But still, it gives us some of a red flag of the engagement here. 35 completed one learning journey, and only 10% are experienced, and power users are 2%. So engagement is a challenging for us right now. So we are iterating in our implementation model in order to ensure that we can get more engagement and measure that. So in order to do so, our first approach was just to promote the app, like spread the word and have people download the app in the region, and even promote it through YouTube and through marketing strategies and spreading the word in schools and in organizations. But we didn't have like an implementation model in place. And we were getting those downloads and users, but we were not getting engagement. So we realized and getting to know again the community and the learners and the gatekeepers, especially that are usually parents and teachers, that we need to be where these people are and who they trust. So they usually trust partner organizations that have a history of working in the region for a long time. And these are organizations people trust because they provide other type of programming to them. And they also have a recognition from the government or from the Ministry of Education. So we are very proud, and this is an amazing job that Jacqueline that is here has done, is to design this implementation program that we are going to pilot starting March, in which we have these elements into place. The social accountability, we train community champions, we have shared goals with the organization. These are organizations that have an interest or a program in place to promote literacy. And we have shared key milestones that we are going to have together. And this goes from downloading the app, creating a user, going through the literacy assessment, then identifying who did their first learning journey, then who started creating a habit, so that we can identify where in the process they are holding back, and we can design strategies that are more aligned to what is needed in the particular context. With this, our goals is to, of course, increase engagement, but also assess learning gains over time and get data of use over time of a 6 months period, while also having the information that we need to inform the next iteration and scale eventually with the Ministry of Education based on the results that we get. This is a question, the challenge question that we had in this iteration is how might we design a partnership model leveraging the app, but also enabling a local capacity with this mix of getting data from the app, but also qualitative information from the field. So we can partner with local NGOs and improve literacy outcomes while keeping our partners motivated and engaged and able to implement. So this is our challenge right now. It's what we are focusing, and we are very proud of this. Jacque here has done an amazing job as again promoting the app and getting our contracts signed with these organizations where we're going to start doing the pilot and more. But these are the main large organizations that we are going to be working on. These are organizations that people in the communities trust, that they value, that have a long history of being in these communities in Guatemala, and also testing the model with a ministry agency that is the Ministry of Social Development that is running after-school programs in different communities. And one of them is going to be an after-school program focused on literacy and focused on AnGo activities. So yeah, we are also iterating our data dashboard so we can have information that these organizations need. Having this organizational level view of the data to be able to track the progress and identify learners at risk and design these organizational level interventions. Last but not least, this is just a reminder of how we are implementing our theory of change. So as I said, our goal is to unlock access through a scalable digital learning platform with culturally relevant stories and level-based activity, incentivize engagement. So we are focusing on engagement in two different areas. We decided for the scope of this plan and due to our capacity to focus right now only in the community-led learning and then eventually inform this gamification and SMS nudges activities based on what we learn in this community-led learning, and always measuring the outcomes using our data dashboard to track and measure progress, empower decision makers, and of course, use it for ourselves to learn and iterate. Part of our next product iteration would imply this organization level dashboard. As I said, we are ongoing on a formal validation of our literacy assessment. And so we currently have checked for validity, but we are still gathering the data for reliability. And this is a process that we are, and we hope that the results from the pilot can help us also validate our literacy test, where we want to strengthen engagement. So we have all the wireframes to design these words that are thinking about the Central American context. You have a word that is a volcano, another one that is some like pyramids and ruins, and a pueblito, a river, jungle, that these illustrate each one of our levels. So we don't want learners to know in which level they are, but we want to know that they are progressing and that they are like unlocking different I don't know, prices or upgrades in the app. But of course, that requires a lot of development, so that we put that on hold for now. But we do have that in place. We also share the wireframes images with the kids. We print them out and show it to them to see what they thought, and they loved it. So as soon as we can, we're going to implement this part. And we are very proud to share that we also are developing a library of stories. These are only stories, not learning journeys at all, just stories that are in different indigenous languages. And the goal is to promote reading at home so that parents and caregivers can engage with some content, even if their mother tongue language is not Spanish. So AnGo is here to bridge the literacy gap for millions in Central America by enabling access to technology and community-based learning. Yeah, and this is an invitation to get involved. And learning engineering is a community work. So if you have some expertise of mentorship in some of these areas that you saw or ideas, please reach out. We will be very grateful to have you on board, and also maybe thinking about research partnerships or sharing funding opportunities that you hear out there. AnGo is 100% free to the organizations and to the end users. So we depend on donations, especially in the US. We are a registered nonprofit in the US. So we are always looking for funding opportunities and, of course, spread the word. Thank you.
Well, clearly, Carolina, look at all the responses you're getting. There's a lot of love and being shared by those who heard your talk, and thank you for all that work and nice feedback. So let's see if people have any particular questions that they want to address. There were a few that were embedded in the chat, and I'm scrolling up to try to find some of those. Does anybody have any they want to come off of mute and answer any questions, ask any questions? Just raise your hand.
Liza, you have a couple of questions. Do you want us to read them or do you want to get off mute?
I'm happy to speak up if you want me to. I always have questions. I'm trying to model the behavior of having questions. I had two very specific questions about the data in the data snapshot. Let's see. One was there was a 17 point something minute data point about engagement with the software, and is that that's the kind of time spent in a single session, or is that the time that one student has access to the software over a longer period of time? If so, are you collecting the total contact time, engagement time, rather than just the per session time?
Yeah. This is the average time spent overall, the 17 minutes, and the average time spent per session, I believe, was about 9 minutes. I have to double check that. I looked yesterday to that data point into our dashboard, and it wasn't there. So I talked with the developers and I say, where did that view went? And we were working towards that. So it's very interesting you made that specific question. But yeah, we are working on getting both the average time spent per user and the average time spent, I'm sorry, per user per session and per user overall. So this data point is overall. So it talks about this engagement situation that we're facing too.
Follow-on question to that.
Yeah.
Your developers, I know the project is new, so the fact that the contact time is very limited right now isn't a criticism, but do your developers have any sense of how much contact time a typical student would need to develop functional literacy?
Yeah, we are expecting to have each learner connect, like use the app twice a week for about 10 minutes. So that would be completing one learning journey. So in average, completing one learning journey would be around 10 minutes, depending on the skills of the learner, of course. But that's our expectation. That's our hypothesis, right? And yeah, we are going to start measuring that right now. We also learn that whereas we wanted this to be an app that is not strictly used in schools, but it can also be used in community centers or at home. We realized that everything goes with the school year length. So the school year in Guatemala starts right now in the middle of February, and it ends in October. So we are expecting to see more of these data points during this school year that we have these partnerships in place. But hopefully we get to see more information about if they are really like how much they spend per learning journey and if they are really connecting or using it twice a week. Thank you.
Let's go to Janet, who has her hand raised. Whoop. You're on mute.
Muted.
There we
Hi,
go.
Carolina. I see your style in this. That's interesting to see. I really like it. I wonder how you are getting feedback about the particular feedback and activities that they're doing and what's working well and what they enjoy and the kind that goes beyond collecting how much time they've been in it.
Yeah, thank you for asking. So our first tier for getting that information is that the content creators usually also work with kids and work with AnGo in these like after school programs they hold. So for us that is very important because they have the first like information from their learners. But of course this is a very small scale, right? And then with this champions model that we have, we have designed surveys for the champions that are working directly with kids and interviews per organization. We are going to interview the organization leader, a parent, some learners, and the champions. So of course, because of a lot of data privacy and bureaucratic situations, we cannot interview everyone or hold very large focus groups as we would like, but we are going to make sure that we have at least one of these stakeholders per organization in this model to get that information.
Wonderful.
Any feedback is more than welcome, Janet. You have ideas, let me know.
Sure.
Molly McCormick actually posted a little while ago. She asked, is one part of the learning engineering strategy to increase completions going to try and address improving that connectivity for users, such as, might the partner organizations help with that process?
Yeah, the partner organizations that we have partnered with, sorry, the redundancy there, have most of them have shared with us a lot of strategies that they are using to have this. So for example, Amachahul that works in a very remote areas of Guatemala in Quiché. They have in their office, like in their hubs and offices, they have internet, and they are also planning to have like solar panels to get more internet into more areas so that they can use AnGo. So I think, and like we have seen that engaging the partners in troubleshooting and being part of the solution as well can be really beneficial because it empowers them to be part of the solution and also take away the burden of us of making it all right. So because we cannot. So we offer this model to be like hybrid, offline and online, so that we know, like we understand that the context they might get internet, like they use Facebook, they use social media. So there's a way of getting it, but still a lot of partner organizations are like, we're going to provide some data, we're going to provide some Wi-Fi hubs, and that has been really surprising to see and very reassuring as well.
Wonderful. Thanks. Any other questions from attendees? Well, let's go on with the presentation. I'm sure you will continue to stew, and if you have any additional questions, please feel free to share those. Let's go to that diagram that I saw it peek through. Next slide. There we go. Call to action for all of you, of course, is as I think it was Ann Fancy who said this: find your icicle home. If you're not familiar with icicle and have not been involved, I like to say that the real work of icicle is done in the special interest groups and market interest groups, and you can see those listed here. The idea is that the special interest groups address issues related specifically to learning engineering in general, specifically and in general, which is design for learning, tools and instrumentation, competencies, credentials, and curriculum, student and grads, and localization and globalization. Of course, the group that is sponsoring today's seminar. There also are specific market areas. So PK-12, higher education, workforce, and government and military. And so it is not unusual that people are involved in one or more special interest groups, but then also are involved in a particular market interest group that is the context in which they're working. So I urge you to get involved. And I'm going to go ahead and turn on a poll where you can indicate which of these SIGs or MIGs are of potential interest to you. And they meet at different times during the month. And also, if you're doing work, I urge you to use those use cases, the things that you're trying to address, and bring those to those SIGs and MIGs. It really it changes it from being something else you have to do to getting access to a group of people who are quite qualified and interested in your efforts and help you to achieve some of your goals. So go ahead and keep filling out. I appreciate you filling out that poll. Let's go to the next slide. These are the different SIGs, and you'll see here right at the top, here's Jody and Bedri, who's on this call as well, with their CCC credentials, competencies, credentials, curriculum, design SIG, Aaron Kessler and Amy Parent, government and military, Eric Ultis and Jason Virtue, Emily Morosco and Rob Nyland with the higher ed MIG, and here is Jody and Adesola, as we've already discussed today, for localization. Zarka Ali and John, I know Zarka's on today's call, head the PK-12 MIG. Students and grads, May, Lee, Abby, Bergman are the two chairs. And tools and instrumentation, which, by the way, meets tomorrow and has an exciting program. And you can certainly ask Aaron and Baptiste for any information about that, as both of them are on today's call. And then the workforce MIG is John Costa and DJ Yeager. Let's go to the next slide. There are a number of resources, and a number of the people on this call have been involved with developing and engaged with these. So some of these there's a poster that was presented, I believe, by Jim Goodell and Say Shots. And it does a nice explanation. There's a book by Chris Deedy and John Richards and Bror Saxberg that's about 2 or 3 years old now, but still very, very good around online education. There are a number of other resources, including an evidence and decision tracker, something we call our lead tracker, developed by Lauren Totino and I can't keep track of everybody. I'm trying to remember everybody now. Over at MIT, also the Learning Engineering Case Guide, also a maturity model that is in development. So it's a very active community, and we urge you to get involved. And of course, there's also this book, which is the Learning Engineering Toolkit that you can get either online. The introduction and the first 2 chapters are available as open resources, but the whole book can be purchased directly from the publisher, who's Routledge, or you can purchase it from Amazon or other sources as well. So urge you to avail yourself of those resources. Next slide. Yeah, I think we're there. So the whole trick with learning engineering is get engaged. It's not a process for just the observer, as you can tell from Carolina's presentation today. It's something that is active, that is about making change and doing so in a way that you're documenting the change and making conscious decisions as part of that process. So, any last thoughts from our co-chairs for the Localization and Globalization SIG? Jody?
We just want to thank everybody for being here, and a big, huge thank you to Carolina for all this incredible information and knowledge and sharing the great work that they're doing. We hope to continue the discussions and support her and support anybody else in the global community that wants to adopt learning engineering. So please join us in our next group. Please reach out and get more involved, as Michael had said. So thank you all for being here and being supportive of it.
Thanks. Also, this recording, probably either later today or tomorrow, will be available on the Icicle website, along with the 4 previous Invitation to Learning Engineering presentations, which look at different market segments. So go take a look there and reach out to any of us. Happy to have you engaged. And thank you so much, Carolina. Absolutely wonderful.
Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, thank you. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.